Good afternoon, everybody, and happy Halloween. And welcome to the Ambassador Wing and another installment of the Ambassador's Retro Reviews. Hope you all are having a very spectacular Halloween, and glad you're all here today. We're going to be wrapping up the month of October and our Halloween festivities with a retro review of one of my all time favorite films and being a little bit of a discussion on its remake, the 1959 classic, House on Haunted Hill. And to everybody that's in the chat, I hope you all are having a great day. Hope you're having hope you have a safe and fun Halloween today. And I have got a couple of returning guests. One that you know his face, you know his voice, and he always has some great insight. The one and the only, Mr. Zach Leary. Zach, good to see you, man.
Hello, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well.
Yeah. And got a face I have not seen in a very long time, a long time friend of the Ambassador Wing. The one and the only Mr. Mladen Kulik. Mladen, it's been a long time, my friend. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Ambassador. Can you hear me all right? Just checking the system. So you can hear clearly my voice.
Okay. Yep, you're coming in clear, bud. So, but anyway, we're not going to stand a bunch of ceremony here. We're going to jump right in, and we're going to talk about House on Haunted Hill. We're going to mainly focus on the original, the one with one of the greats of old Hollywood, Mr. Vincent Price. But we will be doing a little bit of discussion, a little bit of comparison to the 1999 remake with Jeffrey Rush and Famke Jensen as well. So, gentlemen, I have done my thing. I yield the floor. Let's begin.
Well, so I assume, having not seen the remake, of course, that Geoffrey Rush is playing the Vincent Price character. I mean, that sounds like a no-brainer, right?
Yes, and I actually did pull up some images here and everything. I did some research beforehand because I do my research. And give me just a minute, and I will pull up the cast list for both the original and for the remake. So give me just 1 second here. Just gotta make sure I picked the right one. Okay, here it is. I believe that's the right one, yeah. Oh, gotta scroll up just a smidgen here. Now, of course, you've got Mr. Vincent Price here as Frederick Lauren. You got Carol Omart as his wife, and this is also the cast for the remake. You've got Ali Larder, Jeffrey Rush as Stephen H. Price. You've got Jeffrey Combs. You've got Elsa Cook Jr. And hey, I think I can actually do. Yeah, hey, I can do that. Here is the original cast for the original 1959 House on Haunted Hill. Of course, Vincent Price, Carol Omart, Richard Long, Elsa Cook Jr., Carolyn Craig, Alan Marshall, Julie Mitchum. So, and just to give you all a little background, I saw these originally. Well, I saw the original, as many things, through VHS back when Blockbuster was still a thing, and this was something that Mother Ambassador recommended to me. This was a film that she grew up on. And I asked her, I was like, well, is it any good? She's like, well, compared to what they can do nowadays, you might think it's a little cheesy, but I have to admit, this is one that I will watch just about every October because it's got atmosphere, it's got a lot of really good performances, and it's good. It's a good, clean movie with some, like I said, some good performances. So, but yeah, I love this film. I have since I was a kid, and it never ceases to entertain me. So, anyways, fellas, I've kind of said my piece. So, anyhow.
So when it comes to the House on Haunted Hill, I have seen the original. I did not see the remake, unfortunately, because I looked at the trailer and it really looks like just another copy of the Haunting 90s remake with a lot of CGI.
I will be more than happy to admit that yes, the remake It is. It does have a lot of CGI effects. It does do what
I
the
think I
original
just saw
couldn't. But
a ghost behind you, Ambassador.
No, it was
I'm
just a
not
car
even joking.
passing.
Oh, okay. I was like,
No, it
what
was just a
the
car
hell is
passing.
that?
No, just a car passing. So, but yeah, I'll say I did go see the remake in theaters when it came out because I was intrigued. I was interested. I wanted to see what they did. Of course, I liked the cast that they had for the remake. I like Jeffrey Rush as an actor. I like Famke Jensen. Of course, she had done GoldenEye a few years before, and this would be around the same time that she would start her run as Jean Grey in the Bryan Singer X-Men films as well. So I was intrigued by the cast more so than anything. Now, the one thing I will say that they did, beg your pardon, that I did enjoy about the remake was the fact that they did introduce an interesting concept that they kind of touched upon in the original, but they couldn't really do properly. Was introduce the idea of the house truly being haunted and how that haunting would manifest itself. And now I do like the idea that it was simply a haunted house or a house where several murders had taken place in the original compared to the sensationalized version where it was an insane asylum where a demented surgeon was performing all sorts of bizarre and grotesque surgeries on the patients within the insane asylum. But within that, there is an interesting dynamic of our intrigue with the paranormal and how the paranormal can manifest itself. And we do get a touch of that in the original House on Haunted Hill. I would say that both movies are somewhat of a product or a reflection of their times, where
Yep.
you have a murder mystery set to the backdrop of taking place within a haunted house, whereas with the remake, the murder mystery kind of takes a backseat to the whole concept of the manifestation of the paranormal and does the how the paranormal can interact with the normal, the mundane, the people within our world itself. And I have to admit how they created that effect for what is simply known as the evil, the rot, the decay, the madness that dwells within the insane asylum. I really liked how that part of the movie played out. But again, one's atmospheric, one's a little more over the top with a lot of CGI effects and a lot of special effects. So, fellas, your thoughts on that?
Zach?
Well, I think you forgot to mention the third remake, or I guess technically the second, which
It
is the
was a.
film Clue. The film Clue. I mean, tell me there's not a comparison to make there. There's absolutely, and I
I
love
could
Clue.
say.
I
Oh, I
love
love.
Clue,
Yeah, I
but
did. Yeah, I love. I had just recent. I actually watched Clue for the first time all the way through back last year. I did a
oh,
watch
really
along
good,
for.
huh? I like it,
Yeah,
man. I really
yeah.
like it.
Oh, I do too. The only thing I would say that there is a differentiation between Clue and the House on Haunted Hill. There is no paranormal aspect
Right.
to
Well,
Clue,
they took
but
that
still.
and they focused more on the murder situation, but I wouldn't say they copied them. That's not really what I meant. I said it more
Oh
as a
no no.
joke. But Clue, to
Mhm.
me, Clue is totally inspired from the Vincent Price one. There's no doubt about that. I would
Oh
say.
yeah, I would agree with that. Of course, the board game itself is probably somewhat inspired by this whole thing. Of course, just by the whole concept of the murder mystery. They actually did a
Well, and
spoof.
another thing, Ambassador, that's a similarity between the two movies
Mhm.
is the fact that you have a rich individual inviting a group of people to this house for a specific purpose.
Yes, very true. I mean, with Clue, if I recall correctly, Mr. Body was. It's been so long. It's been a little bit since I watched Clue. I can't remember exactly, but it had something to do with international espionage or something along those lines.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so, and of course, you had all the various endings. You had the ABC. Now, the cool thing is with the version that I have, I have it on digital on through Amazon, and we bought it through Amazon. You get all of the endings, which I actually really enjoyed. And um, one was more absurd than the other, but that in that there is a lot of humor. And I will say
Well,
this.
I think the ending that they went with in the theater was Tim Curry did it, right? Was that right? I think so.
Possibly.
The butler did it, I think.
Yeah. So, and I do want to say hello to the chat, Mountains of Elysium. Elysium, good to see you as always. And I don't know how you would say this over in your neck of the woods, but happy Samhain, I guess. And Elysium, I would recommend most definitely watching the original. If you want to watch the remake, you can. And I think just to kind of get a feel for what they did from the original compared to the original. But I will say this: the original is in a lot of ways, I think, superior. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the cast for the remake. That is for me one of the highlights. But at the same time, you can't beat Vincent Price. You can imitate him. You can imitate him, absolutely. And I think Jeffrey Rush's performance as Stephen Price was a nice little homage, a nice little wink and nod to Vincent, but you cannot ever replace a legend like Vincent Price. And of course, he made his mark on Halloween as well with his contribution to Michael Jackson's Thriller video. So,
Classic. I wanted to mention a quick little scene to sort of add to what you're saying. There's a scene where the doctor is going down the hall, coming towards the rooms. Vincent Price has his door open. He sees the doctor, comes back in, shuts the door. Doctor knocks on the door. He comes right out with the gun in his face. Is that an admission of guilt, Doctor? Just the way he did that was so gangster.
Well, that's the great thing about Vincent Price. He knew the type of actor he was, and he didn't necessarily try and steer outside of that lane. And he could do horror films. He could do all sorts of thrillers and so on. And he made a career of it. And he was good at it. So it's for somebody that can really creep the ever-loving crap out of you just with a sinister grin. Vincent Price was one of the best.
There's a gravitas to him. There's an intimidation to him. There's a sense that when another character is talking to him, no matter what film, including this one, that Vincent Price has a card up his sleeve. That no matter what happens, he seems like he has the advantage.
Well, and even with the original, what Price was able to do with his role as Frederick Lauren, even at the outset, just when you see his head transposed over the screen and over the image of the house, it's absolutely frightening. I mean, I don't know if they ever did anything together, but I would have loved to have seen Karloff and Price have done something. I'm actually going to have to do some checking to see if they ever did a film together, because I think those two would have played off each other incredibly well.
Well, I know. Go ahead.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is I know Lugosi and Karloff worked on a few films together, but I'm going to have to do some digging to see if Boris Karloff and Vincent Price ever did any work together, because I would love to see that on film. So go ahead, Zach, please.
in rewatching this film, it was clear to me how easy it would be for somebody to kind of do a low budget version of something kind of similar to this. I think old movies inspire me with what they were able to do without the technology we have today. It's very interesting. I mean, the scene you mentioned, it was Vincent Price's head and the guy who owned the house's head.
Elsa Cook
Superimposed.
Jr. Yeah,
Yeah,
Elsa
yeah.
Cook Jr.
And I was thinking to myself, I think that replicating that shot could be done very easily, very inexpensively. You could. It kind of shows you, okay, here's what they did with low budgets back in the 60s. Very interesting stuff.
Yeah, well, this was the original was actually made in '59, and I think it was made in February of '59. It was released in October of the same year, if I remember correctly. If I'm looking, let me check.
And this guy, Elisha,
actually
Cook
no,
Jr.,
it released. It released in February of '59. My mistake.
I was trying, and look at that, a $200,000 budget. I mean, that's insanity.
Yeah,
right?
and that's estimated. It's not confirmed because back in those days they didn't really think about the budget all too much. But if you look at the box office, I mean, granted that's probably adjusted for inflation, but that's not bad. That's not a turn of profit, honestly.
And also,
2.5 million.
That guy. Could you scroll up for a minute? That guy, Elisha Cook Jr. I was trying to think to myself, where do I know this guy from?
He was actually in the Maltese Falcon. He had done a lot of stuff, but I think the other role he was really known for was the Gunsel in Maltese Falcon that worked for Sidney Greenstreet's character.
I looked him up. I think I've never seen the film you just mentioned. I know him, I think, from an episode of The Twilight Zone.
That's possible. I think he was in an episode. I'm actually surprised, Zach. I would figure you would something like the Maltese Falcon would be right up your alley. It's
nobody's ever recommended it to me.
Okay, hang on here. Something went sideways. Hold on, 1 second. There we go. Yeah, honestly, I think you would really enjoy it. It's a classic with Humphrey Bogart. You've also got Elsa Cook Jr. You've got Sidney Greenstreet. It is a great. It's honestly, I think, one of his very best. So I would really recommend it.
What is sci-fi?
No, it's well, hang on.
Noir crime mystery thriller.
Yes, it's
okay.
It's
like
one
noir.
of the. It's Humphrey Bogart as the detective Sam Spade. If that rings any bells for you.
No, I've never seen it.
I would, hang on, I'll.
Listen, man, I'll put it on my list. Okay.
No, I know. I want to give you some frame of reference. It's something that they've never made a remake of.
Well, while you're doing that, I wanted to bring up to your audience here that there are 4 or 5 Vincent Price interviews on YouTube that are totally worth watching. I've listened to Vincent Price over the years, and I'll come back to his interviews every once in a while, maybe every couple of years, and listen to him talk again. One of the most interesting guys I've ever heard speak. I mean, he was ambassador, an art scholar. He was, highly educated, just one of the smartest guys ever. And I've got kind of an interesting Vincent Price, Tim Burton story too, if you want to hear about that later.
Yeah, by all means. Before you do that, just let me share this with you real quick, just so you have some frame of reference for the Maltese Falcon. Because, like I said, I think you would really enjoy it. It's got some great performances. You've got Humphrey. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Hang on. You've got, of course, Humphrey Bogart here. You got Peter Lorre, Mary Astor, and Sidney Greenstreet. It's essentially a movie about this.
Seeing that statue, it does kind of ring a bell.
It was made in 1940, or it was released in 1941. It is a truly it's a great murder mystery, or it's a great mystery. It's a great film noir. I'd say it's one of the very best of Humphrey Bogart's career. I mean, of course, you've got his role as in Casablanca. Of course, you've got three of the starring cast for Casablanca. You got Peter Lorre, you've got Bogart, and you've got Sidney Greenstreet, all of them who were in Casablanca. So, if you enjoyed Casablanca, I think you would enjoy Maltese Falcon, and I would really recommend it. And if you ever do watch it and you want to do a discussion on it, Zach, I'll be more happy to. I'd be more happy to join you for that one. So, I'll put it together. So, anyways,
I'll have to check it out. There's just too many damn movies, Ambassador. I will have to check it out.
So many movies, so little time. So
I will say, I'm one of those guys. When I say I'm going to check it out, I actually check it out.
Well, speaking of which, did you ever watch? I know we were having some technical issues that night. Did you get a chance to finish Highlander?
No, I actually did not. My Ambassador, my father told me not to watch it.
Why?
My dad said I wouldn't like it. He said I wouldn't like it. I told him about it. I said I'm about to go watch Highlander. He said don't do it.
Zach, I'm not trying to buck your father, but I would say this: go watch it and judge it for yourself. I think you might actually enjoy it.
All right, no. So that's on there too. I'll probably watch the Falcon one first.
Yeah, Maltese Falcon.
I love old black and white movies, man. That's why I was so excited to do this. And we talked a little bit about it. I love these movies. There's something about the atmosphere that we just don't have anymore. We just don't have it anymore. And by the way, Ambassador, the caretakers were absolutely, without question, ghosts. Am I right?
No, they were human.
In the first one.
In the first one, they were human.
Well,
yes.
How the fuck is she floating around?
Well, it was fairly simple. They put her onto a little rolling platform, and then they had it on the end of a rope, and then just pulled her backwards and forwards.
Vincent Price was doing that?
No, the crew did it.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they were ghosts in the film, right?
No, the caretakers were alive.
So that lady hallucinated.
In a manner of speaking, yes. You talking about Nora Manning, played by she was
the wife, the caretaker wife, just sort of floats past her.
Yeah, that was basically just they did that as a very low grade effect to make it appear like she was a ghost, but no, she was not a ghost. The young girl was extremely frightened, and she got scared out of her wits, and she thought it was a ghost, when in fact it was just a normal human, normal person.
I think it was a ghost.
Well, Zach, Vincent Price's character, Frederick Lauren, introduces the caretaker and his wife. They were actual people. Everybody could see them.
Well, I still think they're ghosts. We'll see if Mladen agrees. Were they ghosts in your opinion, the caretakers?
No. In my opinion, I don't think they were ghosts. They were just people behind the how to phrase it. They were working all the entrapments to make it look like the house was haunted.
So they were in on it, is what you guys are telling me. The caretakers were in on it.
I don't know if the caretakers were necessarily in on it. I think that one scene down in the cellar. Go ahead, Mladen.
That's what I'm talking about.
I think just Vincent Price and his wife were on it. I don't think the caretakers were necessarily in on it.
Yeah, but why? Then how was she levitating?
Well, as I said, Zach, she wasn't necessarily levitating. The young girl thought it was a ghost. The caretaker's wife is not a ghost. It was a cheap production trick that they did for the movie. They put the woman on a platform that had wheels and that had a rope on the end of it, and moved her backwards and forwards to where it looked like she was floating or moving without walking.
Yeah, but why use the effect if she's not a ghost? Do you see what I'm saying? I believe that based on what they showed me, total ghost.
But she was, Zach, She wasn't a ghost.
Ghost.
The character was the ghost. The character was not a ghost.
I think she was.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but you're wrong. It's not the fact of the matter. The caretaker and his wife were not ghosts. They were real. They were alive human beings.
Well, that's what a ghost would say, right?
No, a ghost would admit to the fact that they're a ghost. They were not ghosts, and they weren't even necessarily in on the whole scheme. The only two people that were scheming together were Mrs. Lauren and the doctor.
Okay, when what's the lady's name who saw the ghost? Her and the pilot go into that room. There's nobody there, and then when he goes, she's in there. All of a sudden,
no. The pilot, Lance Schroeder, goes into the room. The woman that's down there with him, Mrs. Manning, is outside waiting for him. The lights all go dark, and then they do the camera pan over to that doorway, and then you see the caretaker's wife, which she mistakes for a ghost, kind of appear to levitate out of the shadows to where you can barely just see her. And then they pull her back to give the impression that she was a ghost, but she wasn't.
Yeah, but there's two scenes where she levitates. That's the first scene.
Yes, and in both scenes, she wasn't actually levitating because she's not actually a ghost. They just put her on a small little platform to make it appear like she was a ghost. But then they have the reveal. Okay. They have the reveal later on that it's actually just the caretaker and his wife who are alive,
who disappeared in a snap of a finger when they show up at the door to the study. Okay, regardless, we disagree on that. I feel that they were represented as ghosts. Is it so hard to believe that they would be represented as ghosts? The caretakers who have been there forever, right? But
they just take care of the house. They weren't in cahoots with Lauren.
Then the other explanation would be that the lady who saw the ghost, or the caretaker's wife, was hysterical or delusional.
Yes, she was hysterical. She was panicked, and she wasn't sure what she saw, and she assumed that it was a ghost.
So they were showing us from a twisted point of view through her eyes.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. All right. Please continue.
Well, anyway, as in terms of what they did with the original House on Haunted Hill, they played this up as a horror movie, which in fact it kind of is, because they kind of keep the whole concept of, is the house actually haunted, ambiguous. They don't come out outright and say that it is actually haunted. Now, of course, you have the character of Watson Pridgett, played by Elsa Cook Jr., playing up the whole fact, yes, the house is haunted, and ghosts have caused people to kill each other within the house.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. I know.
You're just being Zach. You're just being a contrarian today. I swear. Anyway, go ahead, Milan.
Yes, it's more of like a Hitchcockian suspense thriller. It's not necessarily horror, but it plays with your mind. Is the ghost real? Is the house haunted? Clearly, it's not. It's just the caretaker just playing around with the guests.
Well, it wasn't even. Sorry, Milan. I just want to say this real quick. The caretakers were not in on the whole scheme.
Sorry, the only people Vincent Price. Vincent Price, that invite the people to the house, that he was basically playing with them with ghosts and everything, that it's haunted and all that.
Yeah, pretty much. And I would say that that's not a bad parallel between what William Castle did with this film and something that Hitchcock might have done. I've always had a fascination with movies about the paranormal. I've had my own touches with the paranormal myself in real life. And yes, I do believe ghosts are a real thing. and they manifest themselves in various ways. So,
well, I was actually going to ask that question. I believe that ghosts exist as well.
Well, I've had 2 brushes, very intimate brushes with the paranormal, with ghosts and everything. But one was of my late father, and one was of my my late grandmother. So, but the thing that I like about this film is the fact that it does leave the whole aspect, because if you think about it, in 1959, ghosts, the paranormal, and all those sorts of things were still kind of made fun of or mocked in a lot of ways. I mean, you had the con artists that would pull off the seances and all these other things. So, and I even want to comment on something that Blanche Schroeder, when he was talking with Laura down in the cellar, because he's a test pilot, he says, a trick of the eyes. You see something in the sky, or was it there, or was it? That's actually a little wink and a nod to the whole idea of UFOs, because even back in '59, there were starting to be at least a few early reports from Air Force pilots about seeing something during their flights. So again, the paranormal and also extraterrestrial life. And I think what this film did very nicely is it was able to weave not only a murder mystery, but present the concept of, is the paranormal real, and how much of an influence does it have on the world around us? And obviously we've gotten a lot of paranormal films over the last several years. And I will say this, a film like this, I think, does a better job of presenting the paranormal. And I will say even certain parts of the remake of House on Haunted Hill play with the whole concept of manifestations of the paranormal in a much better way than a lot of these the Paranormal Activity films or the Conjuring films ever do. Because to me, all they are is just a bunch of cheap jump scares.
Conjuring 1 I like, but when it comes to Paranormal Activity, I'm totally with you.
I don't have, I grew up in the 80s and everything, watching all the classic slasher films. And then, of course, I grew up watching movies like this, like House on Haunted Hill, watching Psycho, watching The Birds, and all these other great horror films and suspense films and psychological thrillers. Now, I will say I did go to theaters to see The Haunting of Hill House. Seeing what the original was like, I really want to watch the original. Now, I know that they did I think it was either on Amazon or Netflix. I know they did a short run series.
Netflix.
Was it
Mike
Netflix?
Flanagan, yes, Mike Flanagan and his wife.
Okay. Oh, good grief, Zach. But I really want to check out the original of Haunting on Hill House, because I watched the remake. I enjoyed it for the most part, but it's very often difficult to surpass the original. And you can have all the big CGI effects that you want, but there's a very old saying, it's what you don't see that truly frightens you and really scares you. And I think that's what House on Haunted Hill, The Haunting, and all of these other classic horror films, quote unquote, and suspense films were able to pull off. That a lot of these other...
Even Jaws is a great example of that.
Oh, yes.
Thank the shark for that.
Yeah. And because if you look at Jaws, the fact that the damn shark didn't work half the time, and they had to use all sorts of tricks and everything else to play up the threat of the shark, it worked. And that, I think, was one of Spielberg's best pieces of direction and creative storytelling, because without the shark, you have to figure out, okay, how the hell do we play up the threat of this giant killer white or great white shark? And they did a great job with that. And I'll bring up Elysium's comment here. If you've actually felt, touched, or seen the paranormal, jump scare movies lose all their power. They can still be fun, but they lose any meaning. Yeah, Elysium, I really honestly I do agree with that wholeheartedly, because the paranormal doesn't jump scare you in real life.
No.
So it doesn't do jump scares. So, and also Lewis Cox, good to see you, bud. I believe I've seen the remake of House on Haunted Hill from the late 90s, early 2000s. It scared the pants off of me for years. There are parts of it that are truly, I would say, are legitimately scary, are legitimately somewhat terrifying. So I can understand that. And but the thing I have to say about the original House on Haunted Hill, it gives you the opportunity for your own mind to race and run and kind of mess with itself and say, "Oh crap, is any of this actually real? What's actually going to happen?" And it's in those moments that you truly become frightened. And I think partly what the doctor had to say in the original House on Haunted Hill about the whole concept of hysteria, there is some truth to that, but it's not as played up in real life as it is in the film. So, oh, Zach, yeah, the Fall of the House of Usher, yeah, I have seen that film. I'll bring up that image. Give me just a minute.
This might be my favorite Vincent Price film, to be honest with you. I mean, I really like it.
I love this film. I know it was later on in his career and everything, when he was somewhat older, but yeah, it is. Yeah, that's
stunning.
Of course, it is based on a work by one of my all-time favorite authors, Edgar Allan Poe.
What a stunning photograph that is. I mean, just amazing.
Yeah.
And you wonder how they did this too. That's the thing. When you watch these old movies, you're like, how did they do it? How did they do it? Mm-hmm. You kind of have similar framing in the movie we're talking about, House on Haunted Hill, with the big, weird-looking house, which is...
That reminds me. I had that tab and things went sideways. I actually looked this up. Hang on one second.
Is that a real house? I assume it's not.
No, it is actually a real house.
Whoa. Is it?
Yes. It is 100% a real house. I actually found this really cool website, and I've heard other people talking about it. It's called movielocations.com. This is an actual house. It was actually constructed by... If I can get all the stupid pop-up ads to go away. Give me a minute, guys. So I want you to be able to see this and not see a bunch of bloody ads. Come on, go away.
The architecture looks like something, and I could be way off, in New Mexico or Arizona, something like that.
Actually, it's in Los Feliz, Los Angeles. Give me a minute.
Not too far off. Not too far off.
No. Give me just a minute. Hang on. Actually, I had this pulled up, but then my windows went all sideways because it was actually... Now, let me scroll up. There's one of the exterior shots of the house. Now, of course, you've got all the location, Los Angeles, California, directed by William Castle, cast Vincent Price, Richard Long, Carol Omar, Elsa Cook Jr. Let's see. Castle skews the gimmick this time. Ergo was a plastic skeleton trundled from behind the screen over the heads of the audience. That's in reference to one of the gimmicks that they did for the actual film. This is actually called the Innes House, and it was, was used. Let's see. Castle skewed Gothic and used Frank Lloyd Wright's superb. Yeah, it was constructed by Frank Lloyd Wright, or was commissioned by Frank Lloyd Wright. So, here's the main gate, which you do see at the beginning of the film.
Yep.
Let's see if there's any other. No, looks like that's the only shots.
What a bizarre looking location, though. Am I right? It's a weird looking house.
Yeah, well, it's based partially on Mayan architecture, especially if you look at all the blocks here. They've got the circular patterns, and I think you can actually see it better here. It's got all these geometric shapes and so on and everything, which is very reminiscent of Mayan architecture as well. Of course, you've got this really creepy main gate, and then you've got the little side doorway here. But yeah, it was. Oh no, that's okay. Here's a little bit of sad news. The house went on to be damaged in the 1994 Northridge earthquake. It was in danger, but was finally given a massive restoration completed in 2007. There used to be very occasional opening days to tour the house. They were ended when it became structurally unstable, but there's no word yet if they're going to be resumed. Being so visually striking, it's been a frequent location for movies, ads, and music videos. You can see the house as the movie producer's home in Lawrence Kasdan's Grand Canyon, and John Schlesinger's Day of the Locust as a villain's hideout in The Karate Kid Part 3, and Ridley Scott's Black Rain, and a Hong Kong penthouse in Rush Hour. Now that I do remember, perhaps most famously in another Ridley Scott movie, Harrison Ford's futuristic home in Blade Runner. So it's been used a lot.
Yeah, that would be a shame if they didn't kind of fix it up.
Well, I think they got it pretty much fixed up. I think there may just be some other work that they had to do. So,
well, I wanted to bring this up too. I think in some ways, something very interesting about Gothic horror in general is that the film seems super intimate, usually with very few characters trapped in a location, usually a big house, and yet, while being intimate, they have this giant scope to them with the big exterior shots of the house, with the atmosphere. I mean, the film opens with screams.
And all sorts of groans and moans and very creepy laughter. Yeah. To kind of play up the whole concept of the haunting of this house.
Yep. And in House of Usher, which again I think is my favorite Vincent Price Gothic horror film, you have the leading lady go out to the courtyard, and the wind carries sounds of screams. So all that is about atmosphere.
Well, and that's what the original, what William Castle was able to do with the original, because they didn't have the budget or even the means necessarily, but that's the great thing. You can have the characters carry the story. You can have the atmosphere of the house carry the story, and you don't need all these big special effects. And you think about it, you have a very small group of people, like you mentioned, Zach, in this original film, that don't know each other except for the husband and wife, and we find out later the doctor and Mrs. Lauren know each other, obviously, and they plan this big scheme to get Frederick Lauren, Vincent Price's character, out of the way so she can inherit all his money.
Who is not a good guy either, right? He's a kind of a terrible person and a questionable guy.
Yeah, and that's... Yeah, go ahead, Zach, please.
No, I'll jump in after you're done. Go ahead.
Okay. That's Lauren himself. You figure that he is at least he is a scrupulous businessman. He's a decent businessman, but when it comes to his personal dealings with his wives,
yes,
he is not. There's something very off about him. I mean, Annabelle says it herself. Your possessiveness is maddening, and you're not going to get off tax free here. So, and to the chat, right, Kitty? It is good to see you. Right, Kitty? I can understand. I can understand where you would get things crossed up. I would recommend, right, Kitty, if you have not had the chance, go check out the original House on Haunted Hill. Haunting of Hill House. I don't hate it, but I want to see the original because I want to see what the original did. That for me is the big thing.
In terms of that show, I really like it. I love it. To me, the best episode in that show is the funeral episode, which it seems to me almost like a play. Just marvelous writing. I mean, if you take a look at the writing, it's some of the best ever.
You're talking about the Mike Flanagan series.
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
Well, and I haven't had the chance to again. I may have to check that out after we're done here because, I've heard a lot of good things about the miniseries that Netflix did for The Haunting of Hill House, and I want to see if it is superior. I have a feeling that it is somewhat superior to the film. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I love Liam Neeson as an actor. He is one of my favorite actors. You've got a very interesting cast with the remake of Haunting of Hill House. But the CGI and some of the story, I don't hate it.
Okay, I love the performances too. I think my favorite character is the older version of the dad, who just seems so tortured as a character, and just great characters overall. The kids are awesome. The one kid who's a drug addict is really good. The sisters are great. I really like it. So maybe if you ever do one on that, we could talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also to the chat, CJH. CJ, happy Halloween to you as well. And let me bring up your comment here real quick. The new gimmick lately is sequel reboots where they ignore the original sequels but say that the first one is canon. So like Halloween or even probably the new Scream.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the truth, CJ. I checked out of the Halloween franchise after Halloween H2O. I thought
good timing because the next one was crap.
Yeah, Halloween was it Resurrection or something?
Yes, Halloween
Resurrection. They had that one. They had the one rapper in it.
Busta Rhymes.
Busta Rhymes.
Oh God!
Trick or treat, motherfucker!
Oh. Oh no!
And I did not see Halloween 2018. I really don't have an interest to do so. For me, it's Halloween, Halloween 2, and Halloween H2O. That for me are the three. I have seen the other ones. They did all the sequels. I saw Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. I saw all the others that they have done. They just didn't appeal to me.
Well, Carpenter hates them. Ambassador Carpenter hates them.
So I can't say I'm blaming this to Carpenter. Screw him after Halloween Kills.
He didn't do it.
He didn't do it, but he gave ideas and he was a producer.
Yeah, well, a producer is not the director or the writer. I see what you're saying, but give Carpenter
a sometimes a producer can be heavily involved more than the director. I don't know how.
Maybe the shit he gave him is the only stuff you liked from it. Who knows what he gave him?
So I just,
But I know what I didn't like it either. Halloween Kills. I didn't like it either.
Well, I'm not even gonna bother seeing Halloween Kills. I'm gonna go. I saw the two movies.
It's Halloween 2 is what it is. It's at a hospital.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Well, Halloween 2 is just. I think honestly, I will say this. I know Carpenter didn't want to do Halloween 2, but I absolutely love Halloween 2. I think it was I love the whole idea. Here's the thing and I talked about this last Halloween because I did reviews for both Halloween and Halloween 2. I did as a one whole stream. I love the whole idea that the sequel picks up literally like minutes or seconds and everything after the first one does. I love that continuity. I think that was a really cool construct that they used to link the two films together. You don't have any type of time jump or anything. It's not years upon end. It's literally minutes.
Well, it's in some ways they stole from Halloween 2. It's in a lot of ways. I mean,
what they did with Halloween Kills.
Yeah. It's different, but there's some definite shared elements.
I saw the two movies in theaters that I wanted to see this month. I saw Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and I saw Dune. And I will say this: I enjoyed both experiences. I will say I enjoyed Dune a little bit more. I will say I probably enjoyed the. Now, I didn't hate Venom, Let There Be Carnage, but that's a conversation we've already had. For me, next month, it's going to be The Eternals. I really want to say I don't give a rat's patootie in hell what a bunch of reviewers have to say. I don't care what Rotten Tomatoes has to say. I'm going to go in and I'm going to judge it on its own merits with my own opinion.
That's how you do it.
And I will say if it's good. I will say if it's bad. And I'll go on from there.
Okay. So, I wanted to comment on this. I think what makes these gothic horror films so good, Fall of the House of Usher, The Pit and the Pendulum, House of Wax, just all really, really good. Isn't that what it's? Museum of Wax, House of Wax? What is it called?
House of Wax.
House of Wax, yeah. House of Wax. All these ones, The Cat, right? All these Vincent Price ones. I think what makes them so interesting is that there's a human underpinning to the story. It's not about scaring you. It's about kind of making you think in an interesting sort of way. And with The House on Haunted Hill, it's really a film about greed. And not just financial greed, which is the major highlight.
Possessiveness.
You've got the greed of the people being there for money. You've got the greed and the disgust of the major character. The Vincent Price character is kind of a disgusting, greedy, like you said, possessive character. The greed of relationships, where his wife is willing to kill him to be happy, right? You can do it without killing Vincent Price. But to me, it's a great piece of gothic horror, but it's also really a film that focuses on greed in a lot of different ways.
I would agree with that. Absolutely. So, Milan, your thoughts?
See, my thoughts. And also, they were, like you mentioned before, they weren't necessarily reliant on a huge budget. Plus, sometimes practical effects is more efficient than special one. And what also, excuse me, to get my thoughts. What the new horror movies don't understand is that you need to have likable characters to carry the movie on. That's what's great about some of the older ones. You have likable characters. For example, most of Vincent Price's movies, whether he's playing good guy or a bad guy, he's a very likable character. You want to follow him. You want to listen to every word he says. So there's that, and if you have a great cast stuck in a room, you will be terrified, even though you know there is no jump scare, there is no special effects CGI, or otherwise it's all practical, even though its illusion is to think that it is real.
Well, and they did very simply with this film. You had the severed head, which you can tell it's a fake severed head, but they made it look ugly as all hell. You had the effect of the caretaker's wife, who you think is a ghost at first, but then it turns out no, she's just a regular she's a real life person that is unfortunately blind and doesn't always know her surroundings or anything, and can make really creepy looking faces just with a few expressions of her with her face. You've got the effect of the rope coming in through Nora Manning's window after the death of Annabelle Lauren, and then Annabelle Lauren seemingly hanging outside of her window after she is supposedly dead. And you're not sure if this is something that is being pulled off by the Doctor and Lauren. You're not sure if this is something that Frederick Lauren himself is doing, or you're not sure if it's something paranormal. And go ahead, Zach.
With that, what I think they did with that is shot that shot of her feet in reverse. That's really what I kind of came up. They probably shot that stuff in reverse, right? They pulled the rope and then reversed the footage.
Yeah, and that for the time, that was a very easy and very inexpensive camera trick to do. It does.
Looks great.
Yeah, I was watching it on our 4K player. I mean, it's just I have it on DVD. That I don't think they have done a Blu-ray transfer of the original or anything. But I was watching our 4K TV on their 4-way player, and it looked good. You couldn't tell any of this. You couldn't tell any of the effects per se that they used to pull off that effect, but it still worked.
Well, even the version I saw just recently when I because I think you told me about this last time I was on here a week or 2 weeks ago or something. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, well, yeah, I could rewatch that again. The version I ended up seeing had all of the dust and scratches on the film.
Oh,
really? Which and it had the little, you would see all the different problems with the whatever transfer was done from whatever certain roll of film, which to me added to the experience. It felt like you're watching, the fact that it's shot on film and that I'm watching something that's been preserved for me to be able to watch now is very interesting to me as well.
Well, and when the whole concept of DVD was starting to come out in the early 2000s, I was very much on board for it. Now, Mother Ambassador, she was somewhat hesitant about it. And I can understand I could understand where she was coming from, because she grew up in a time when that sort of technology didn't even exist, wasn't even close to existing yet. And she's like, well, these discs can get scratched and messed up. And I'm like, but Mom, they can figure out ways to make the discs where they don't get scratched or messed up or anything. And it's like, if you think about it, a lot of this old film stock is very fragile. So them taking these older films and transferring them to this new medium is a good thing. And
I've put in VHSs and had the blue screen. I'm sure you've been there too as a kid. That happens too, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Well, and the other interesting thing for me was, I guess maybe I'm somewhat of a product of my times. I grew up with VHS being a thing. Now, granted, we didn't get a VCR until like 97, and that was when a couple of friends from my mother's work and everything, they got us a VCR for Christmas one year, and one of the first VHSs that we ever got from them was Independence Day, because we loved that movie. We went to see it in theaters. But I do remember when they did the 94 restoration of the original Star Wars trilogy, even though we didn't have a VCR at the time, I was like, Mom, I want to get this. This is going to be the last time that they're going to put out the originals and anything on anything. And of course, a few years later, they would turn out to do the limited special editions of the non-specialized original trilogy on DVD, which I have. But I was like, I wanted to get this. And when we finally got that VCR and I was finally able to sit down and watch the original Star Wars trilogy, non-specialized, of course, we had just gotten this, we were going to get the specialized ones in theaters just a few months later on. It was a real treat for me. And seeing the progression of technology and how the generations have reacted to those changes, and seeing these great old films like House on Haunted Hill, like Casablanca, like Maltese Falcon, and all these others be preserved for future generations to be able to appreciate and watch and enjoy and grow a following in their own route, their own right. These movies are, I think, in a lot of ways, truly generational. I mean, yeah, we look at them now through the prism of the fact that they didn't have this big budgets, they didn't have computer generated effects or anything else. They didn't even have the best of practical effects at the time yet. But there is quality within them. Yeah, there is an enjoyment within them. So, Zach Aladdin, go ahead.
Ambassador, if I get the opportunity to direct or produce a big budget film, I will bring back practical effects. I will. Because there's something about practical effects to me that there's a certain magic to it that to me CGI can't do for me. Okay, and again, you said you're a product of your environment and time. I think I am too. There's something about, and you're older than me, right? But still,
I'm 43. I'm not sure. I can't remember how old you are.
Yeah, you're older than me. There's something about a practical effect that even puppet Yoda versus CGI Yoda, right? There's something about the practical that really appeals to me. Matte paintings, the fact that somebody built this, that we have, to me it's more artistic than pixels on a screen, right? So I really love it. I enjoy it. I like the fact that on House of Haunted Hill they were able to accomplish things that make me think about it. When I watch Pit and the Pendulum, and they have that weird machine down in the the crypt under the house, it's like, what the hell the fuck did they, with the creature in there? It's like, how did they do that? Right? It's fun. There's a certain magic to it, and there's a certain there's just a certain quality to it that new films don't really have. We talked about Dune. Dune has that. Dune is practical as it can be, as practical as it can be. You know, we all saw they did full size ships, and they did all the costumes, and they did as much as they could, right? But I miss practical. I miss it,
and you know, I do as well. And now I will say this, and I do respect your perspective and everything when it comes to CG, when it comes to computer generated effects. But I think there is an art to that, even because they have to do the work to create these environments or these creatures or whatever to make it at least somewhat believable. And I think there's an artistic thread within them, just in how they're able to design it, because they take concept art and they translate that concept art from drawings or paintings or whatever, and they transition it to a digital effect.
Yeah, no, so, I hear you, but it's like
no, and a
car built from hand or a car built by a factory, right? That might be a good metaphor for it.
No,
there's something kind of indescribable about something that's handmade, especially when it comes to a film.
Oh yes,
that is kind of touching. I kind of long for that style of filmmaking.
Well, and the good thing is, I think on several productions that we've seen over the last few years, practical effects have made a comeback. But the good thing is they're also incorporating, they've taken the two disciplines of CGI effect and practical effect, and they've been able to marry them together to create a much more visceral and dynamic product. And I think that is one of the really great things about how these two forms of creating effects for film and for TV and all these other mediums can coexist together. It doesn't have to be one thing and none of the other. It can be both.
Okay, well, I'm not trashing CGI.
Oh no, I never said you were. I never took it as such.
All I'm saying is that in a certain way, CGI can be practical can be a more powerful tool than CGI. I mean,
agree.
think of the money you would save using practical.
Yes, I would agree,
and
I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Well, even The Thing, which I saw you did a review for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I didn't know you were doing it. I missed it, but
it's okay. No
for me, the practical in the thing is what makes that movie scary. That thing is really there. That thing's really there. When this little spider legs come out of the head, that shit actually happened. It was photographed.
They had to figure out a way to do it. So, yeah.
And
Milan,
funny story about that. This last thing on the
go
thing.
Ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Last thing on the thing. I saw an interview with Keith David, and he said that shit scared. He said that watching the practical effects scared the shit out of him when he filmed that
I believe
movie.
I believe it, because when you're on the set and you don't expect that to happen, it can be it can scare the ever-living crap out of you.
Well,
so,
he said something along the lines of, "I read that in the script, and then it actually happened." Big difference there between script and and being there.
Milan, thank you for bringing this. Thank you for sharing that. I'll pull this up on my. I'll pull this up. Milan, you've been quiet for the last few minutes, so I want to give you the floor. Give you a chance to give your thoughts on anything we've discussed thus far. So, the floor is yours, my friend.
So I want to touch upon what you were saying about creative use of CGI effects, and that they can be sometimes useful. And a good example is Army of the Dead. I saw the behind the scenes of making the film, and they use a lot of CGI in that movie, and how it got transferred from drawing to screen. And watching that movie, in some scenes you cannot tell if something is CGI or not. In some aspects you can. But I understand what Zach was saying about the practical effect can be more efficient than a CGI one, and lacking in some movies. That aspect can be a little bit, what's the word? Disappointing if you are not using it right.
Well, plus
the combination of both practical and CGI are good as well. For example, Denis Villeneuve and Christopher Nolan are pioneers of practical effects with a CGI.
Yeah.
Despite what you may think of them when it comes to streaming services, but they do want to keep the practical effects alive. There are a few other filmmakers, but those are the two that come right into my head right now.
Well, with Las Vegas and the destruction of Vegas, you had to kind of use CGI, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I do blow up the whole Vegas.
But it would be interesting to see somebody attempt with practical. Like when I think of a city, I think of like the Gotham City from Batman '89 and Batman Returns, which I think was '92, right? Where you had, I think all of it was city models and car models on tracks and stuff like that. But
very possibly. I don't know for sure, because it's been a while since I watched Batman Returns. So, but I do want to bring this up. And Len, thank you for bringing this up, because I didn't even know this website existed. Blu-ray.com, the Vincent Price collection on Blu-ray, and you can get new or used through Amazon. That's actually not a bad price, because you get, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movies. So, The Last Man on Earth, The Comedy of Terrors, Dr. Phoebe's Rises Again, The Tomb of Lygia, The Raven, Return of the Flying House on Haunted Hill.
But it looks like it might be a rare piece too, based on the price, like kind of a rare piece for your collection, which is always good.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, because this is Vincent Price we're talking about. So, but Milan, thank you for sharing that website. I'll definitely have to give that a look myself, because I love Blu-ray. I do. I definitely love these older. I love these older films, so it's good to see that they are doing these transfers. Let's see. I'll bring up Elysium's comment here. CGI enhancing practical effects can work really well, but relying on CGI alone often detracts from the experience and draws me out of a film. Elysium, I can't say the same thing happens to me, but I can understand where that can happen to people. So.
Well, people like to talk about the Star Wars prequels as having an overabundance of CGI, but a lot of those were real sets. A lot of those sets were real sets. If you look at the place where Dooku fought Anakin and Obi-Wan, that's a real set. Yeah, that's a real set.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
People complaining about that, those films in particular, it's such a vast movie that I can see where they would be tricked by it, which is the point. You're supposed to be tricked by it. But a lot of that stuff is based in practical, which kind of goes towards the comment you just pulled up.
Yeah. Well, and there have been some people I've seen memes of this where the prequels sort of retcon things that were said in the original trilogy. Like there was one in particular that dealt with Yoda. Wars make not one great. And then of course you see him going into battle against Dooku, but I have to say my counter to that particular meme is this. Yoda was a warrior only when he had to be one. He didn't view himself as a great warrior. That was a misconception by Luke himself. And what Yoda was trying to tell Luke is war does not make one great. Being a person of ethics and morals and doing the right thing, that's what makes you a good person. That's what can potentially make you a great person. It is not war, because no one wants to seek war. War is the last result. Is the final result of when communication breaks down.
Well, in many ways, throwing away his lightsaber in Return of the Jedi was a stronger defense than if he had tried to fight Palpatine one-on-one.
That is true. Now, I don't know if you did, Zach. Did you ever read the novelization of Return of the Jedi by chance?
No, the only novelization I read was for Episode 3.
Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me give you a little bit of insight, because this is not only mentioned in the novel, but it's also mentioned in some of the script, because Luke does attempt to deflect or block Palpatine's lightning. But considering his skills in the Force weren't as advanced as, say, Yoda's when he's going up against Dooku or even Palpatine, he's not as successful. Now, of course, I'm guessing Yoda did not tell Luke that, hey, you can use your lightsaber to block the Emperor's lightning, like Count Dooku did, even like Obi-Wan did in Attack of the Clones.
Well, I would say a little bit differently is the novelization is commissioned before the film is released. So Lucas probably changed his mind on that. And
that wouldn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is he wanted to give that opportunity for Anakin to redeem himself, because that's the big thing right there.
Yeah, which was his first opportunity, right? He gave him a chance.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I don't want to get off on a big detour on Star Wars or anything, but we can do that another time. I'll bring up Elysium's comment here. CGI done well, I'm all for it. It's just I was not trained as an artist, not a good one, but I can often spot CGI. Lord of the Rings was great CGI and also terrible effects. Lighting never looks right when employed. Yep.
Well, here's the problem. Compare Lord of the Rings to the Hobbit trilogy in terms of CGI. It's a night and day difference.
Oh, yes. I remember.
I saw the Hobbit films in theater, and when they had that cliffhanger for the Desolation of Smaug, I was like, what? You're going to end it here? You're going to end it here. You're going to stretch this out into 3 movies, even though it could be done in 2.
Or one.
It made my...
Frankly, one.
Yeah, it could have been 1 4-hour movie, and I would have been just as happy.
Even less than
I
that.
would have sat through 4 hours.
We really need to see these goofy ass fucking dwarves all the time. I mean, how many scenes with them can you cut? A lot.
There is a channel that I watch on occasion, and she did the channels. She just does her name, Lindsay Ellis. And a few years ago, she did a series of videos on the production of the Hobbit films. And learning what I learned through that, it's all above board. She did her research, she did her legwork, and everything else. She even got a chance to interview one of the actors who played one of the dwarves in The Hobbit. And he talked about his experience and everything else. And she did a real thorough deep dive on it. And to learn what I learned now. Huh?
No, I'm sure of it. Yeah. So, I mean, the main detail for me is, and I'm sure you know this from watching whatever documentary you saw, is the firing of Guillermo del Toro is what sunk those films. That's what screwed the pooch. Is he kind of was going to do his own thing, and he's a guy who was obsessed with monsters. That's his whole thing, monsters and that kind of fairy tale element, which would have been a great addition to it. I mean, and he had worked on pre-production, I think, for 2 years before they fired him, and then last minute, right?
There it is. He either quit or he was fired. I can't remember which. Okay.
I think he was fired, dude. And the last second they brought in Peter
Jackson. Might have been. It's been a while since I'm gonna just share. I'm just gonna do a screen share on this and everything. Like I said, the channel's just called Lindsay Ellis, and I like her work. She's actually written her own book. I haven't had a chance to read it or anything, but when it comes to her content on YouTube, she does good stuff. She doesn't upload very often, and this series of videos is 3 years old. But if you want to really learn about the whole production nightmare or whatever you want to call it behind the Hobbit trilogy, I'd say this is the buck stops here, because she actually did.
Main guy was good though, right? I liked what's his name is Bilbo, man.
Oh yeah, Martin Freeman. I loved Martin Freeman. I loved him as Bilbo. And seeing Gandalf back. I mean, Ian McKellen. But here's her channel. It's just called Lindsay Ellis. She's actually gotten over 1 million now. Hey,
there you go.
Yep. Hey, she's doing something right. So, but I just it broke my brain seeing what they did with The Hobbit. I'm and learning about this in retrospect, I'm like,
well, that's what you had to do. Ambassador is Guillermo del Toro was your ticket to do something interesting, and they screwed the pooch. But I'm about to break your brain again. Possibly. Imagine Vincent Price as a James Bond villain.
I could actually see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. I could totally see that.
This character, he would be a badass James Bond villain. I mean, that was the thought I had during rewatching this movie.
Now, of course, we did get Christopher Lee as a James Bond villain, and it worked.
Yep.
The man with the golden gun.
Scaramanga.
Scaramanga, yeah. And of course, you had Hervé Vivichez Jr. as his assistant.
Yep.
And you had the absolutely preposterous fight between Bond and the assistant. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Most of those movies are somewhat preposterous. I mean, doesn't Christopher Lee fight him in like a Hall of Mirrors or some crazy shit like that?
It's some sort of funhouse type of thing that Scaramanga has constructed. But
yes, and
so.
I think if I'm not, maybe I've gone crazy. I don't think I have. I think that Scaramanga actually sings in one of the scenes in the film, sings like a song or something.
I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen Man with the Golden Gun, so I really honestly don't know.
I would bet money. I'm telling you, he has a singing sequence in that movie.
He very well might. So, anyway. So, well, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up here, but I'm going to let you guys have the final thoughts, your final thoughts on House on Haunted Hill or anything else we've discussed this afternoon, and then we'll call it a day. So, the floor is yours, guys.
Zach?
Go ahead.
All I can say is, if you want a good Vincent Price movie, this is a good place to start, and it's a well directed film as well.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, because William Castle, he was one of the greats. He did a lot of low budget stuff, but he had a lot of passion and a lot of enthusiasm for it, and I think that's a good thing. So, Zach, your final thoughts, my friend.
My final thoughts: we must not let our contemporaries, our friends, and people we know, and if we have platforms like this, we cannot let the public in general forget about Vincent Price. I think that even today, he brings to the table something that really is unique and interesting. And I could make comparisons with Orson Welles, who was another one we can't forget. Yes. And to me, it's kind of it's a piece of history. If you're interested in films, if you're interested in cinema, acting, what have you, watch his movies, watch his interviews that are on YouTube, which are phenomenal. I mean, again, one of the smartest guys I've ever heard speak. When he's interviewed, he's amazing. And I wanted to bring up this quick Tim Burton anecdote.
Certainly,
when he worked with Tim Burton and Edward Scissorhands. Vincent Price at that time period had felt, according to his family or somebody like that, I saw a documentary on Vincent Price working on that film, and Vincent Price had felt that he had been forgotten by modern cinema. We cannot let that happen to him. And when Burton brought him in to do the part of the inventor in Edward Scissorhands, he felt like he had been remembered, that he wasn't forgotten. Right, and allowed him to do this very interesting part, which is really a heartwarming story. And thank God for Burton, and thank God for Vincent Price and House on Haunted Hill. I mean, it's a fun movie. It's an old school film, and if you're interested in films, I think you can learn something from it. So I'll leave it there.
Well, I've never had I've seen clips of Edward Scissorhands. I've never seen it all the way through. I was aware of Vincent Price's involvement in his part in it, but I think now I need to really go have a sit down and watch it all the way through, because I am a fan of Tim Burton. If you got a chance to participate or watch my director spotlight on Tim Burton, I think it is one of his early career highlights, and it shows that New Hollywood at that time still had a very remembered old Hollywood. And that's who Vincent Price was. He was old Hollywood. He was classy. He was elegant. He was well-spoken and well-read. He was a gentleman in every sense of the word. And even though he may have played a scoundrel in this film and in some of his other works as well, he was always very charming. He was always authentic. And he never tried to trick or fool or sucker his audience. He was who he was. And I will say this, for his small part in one of the great epics of old Hollywood, Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments. His part as Baca, the master builder. he was one of the highlights of that film. So, well, anyways, folks, we're going to go and wrap up for this afternoon. I hope you all enjoyed the stream, and of course, you catch us on replay. Make sure to leave your comments down below with anything that me and the fellows discussed. I will be back next week with the Council of Ones. We'll be continuing our review of Babylon 5 Season 4. And I will be bringing you all my review of Eternals. I'm going to try and go see it this coming week and everything, or I'll see it in the next couple of weeks. Next month, we'll be focusing on the films of the Matrix series. And I'll also be doing my 2-year YouTube anniversary stream sometime next month. So be sure to keep an eye on my social media for details on that as well. So, but everybody, have a great afternoon. Have a very happy Halloween, and we'll see y'all next time. And until next time, these are the ambassadors, signing off.